Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it's time for breakfast with Blaha. And today I'm having brown rice, steak, mixed vegetables. Sure, people will find fault with this, and guys, don't offer me advice on seasoning my food. I'm not interested. When people do that silly stuff, it just annoys me and it makes me want to ban you. I don't care what you think tastes good or what you think someone like me who is an overeater needs to add to their food to make them hungry. Okay, I'm not a hard gainer like you guys. I don't struggle to eat 8,000 calories. I don't need to season my food so that I gain a bunch of water from the salt and bloat and my blood pressure goes up. And then I overeat so that my food tastes to your standards. Okay, just a reminder. But let's talk about protein intake. All right, whenever I make adjustments or clarifications, it seems like people go, oh, you're flip-flopping. When I'm actually not. My stance doesn't even change. I still hold the same stance. People need to understand our stances have nuance and exceptions. All right, there are very few hard, fast rules that we should treat like a dogmatic religion. You know, when it comes to sports, nutrition, sports sciences, things like that, coaching advice. Protein's one of them. Now, here's what I will say. Did I change a major stance in the last year or so? I did. And I explained why based upon scientific research. I had a stance, came from a single study, but that study was heavily supported in the circles that I'm in, heavily supported in YouTube evidence-based fitness too for many years. Turns out it wasn't that well of a done study. Other people in the community have debunked it, and there's at least a dozen other studies that gave completely different conclusions that all lined up with each other. And that was that we don't actually need to increase protein when we're in a calorie deficit to retain muscle. It turns out we don't have to. And I corrected that stance. Okay? And I gave you guys one of the best sources of information for why it got debunked. That was based upon Eric Helms' research, his doctoral work. And again, I saw a fantastic debunking by Menno Hanselman, who basically said, look, his math is wrong. He's not even right. His own data doesn't support his conclusion. And here's a dozen other major studies just as big that all gave a different answer. So he's got it's a single study is where we were getting this idea. Research doesn't support it. So when we talk about protein intake, people need to understand there is nuance to this because we eat protein for more reasons than to gain muscle. That's why it's nuanced. What is the protein recommendation if your goal is to gain muscle or to retain muscle? All right, I've been very consistent with this one for 5, 6, maybe 7, maybe 8 years. I don't know. That is 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. That's assuming high quality protein. That's assuming you're not eating a vegan diet or whatever. You know, a good chunk of that's animal-based protein with a high bioavailability. I don't want people to come in and say, well, whatever's a complete. I didn't say complete versus incomplete protein. Do not put words in my mouth. If that's what you're using, you aren't up to speed on the research, actually. We're talking about bioavailability. And plant proteins just have a lower bioavailability, even if their amino acid profile is really good. So we're not talking about that. We're talking bioavailability. We're under the assumption that it's a mixed diet, that you're getting some animal, some plant source with that number. That's the upper end of the threshold. So when I give the 1.6 grams, so context, let's say you're 100 kilos body weight. It's 160 grams of protein. Most of you out there are less than 100 kg. 160 grams. All right, now people say, well, I might need more for wiggle room. No. That is the wiggle room. If we wanted to not have wiggle room, it would be 1 to 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight. So somewhere between 100 to 160 grams. You can argue with that number all you want. The research doesn't support it. This is studies looking at athletes, powerlifters, bodybuilders, All these people, these are who these studies are studying. That's where muscle protein synthesis caps out. That's where muscle growth caps. Am I saying you should never eat more protein than that? Of course not. There are plenty of reasons to eat more. There are reasons to keep it that low too, though. Biggest ones on the list. Biggest ones on the list. Appetite. Appetite. What am I eating right here? I'm eating a high satiety food. Why? Because I am an easy overeater. I'm someone who can eat 5,000 calories without a problem, and I'm in a calorie deficit. Eat high protein, eat a lot of fiber. No matter what I'm doing with my diet, no matter what my carbs or fat or whatever look like, those two are constants. Right? Protein fills you up. Protein fills you up. So for people who they have a tendency to try to eat more than their current calorie needs. They tend to be hungry still or want to binge or snack beyond their current calorie needs. Higher protein is good for two reasons. Why? Higher satiety, higher thermic effect. It can change your calories out. So when we talk about calories in versus calories out, anything we can do on the other end that can impact metabolic things or thermic effect can also raise your calories out. It doesn't need to be a lot. Like eating a really high protein diet, you might only get another 50 or 100 calories out of it on the metabolic end. But if you're struggling with your food intake, that 100 calories is still an extra 100 calorie deficit that you can maintain while sustaining your diet. Number two, the satiety. You tend to want to eat less when protein intake's higher on top of it. So you get a double whammy. You throw fiber in there, you're good. Like you're in a very good situation. Higher protein intake can help with connective tissue. If you get tendinitis, your tendons and things hurt from training. Sometimes more protein can help alleviate that, right? There are other things. It's one of the things we can do. There's a lot of things we can do for that. That can be one of them. Higher protein intake. Bring down connective tissue inflammation. Increase collagen synthesis. That's not related to muscle growth, right? It can be sometimes helpful for this. So there can be benefits. All right, let's come over to the negatives, though. Person who struggles to bulk, right? The hard gainers. People are like, oh, I'm eating 3,500 calories. I think I'm on puke. And then people tell them to eat, 200, 300 grams of protein. Do you see a problem there? We just explained that protein will impact your calories in and calories out in a way that helps you keep food intake lower. You don't want to do that if you're struggling. Like that's not ideal for someone who struggles to eat enough. Probably not. Maybe they can work around it just by lowering their fiber and eating more hyperpalatable foods. That's a solution. But upping protein, not necessarily wise for them. Those people may want to stick towards that other end. They may even want to drop it a little lower. They could possibly go below the 1.6 and then get more carbs and more fat in. Just saying, it's an option. So the point is, the numbers have they stayed the same. My recommendations are there with the understanding that there is nuance to it. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.